I know faking it gets exhausting. Here, we keep it real. What's good, you guys, and welcome back to the Curls and Courage podcast. Hope you guys are feeling blessed and highly favored. For those of you who don't know me, I'm your host, Kinsley Meeks, wellness entrepreneur, fitness coach, bikini bodybuilder, and digital creator, here to inspire you to live boldly and unlock your highest physical and mental potential. I really appreciate you guys taking the time out of your day to listen or to watch today's show, and I am stoked for real because I have my girl Valen with me today. Valen is actually my tattoo artist, and let me just say she is crazy gifted, but she is also just a beautiful person inside and out. I feel like anyone who's putting artwork on my body, you know, I want them to carry good energy and actually bring me vibes and inspiration, and that is exactly what you do. I actually met Valen like 2 years ago after I just moved to Miami, and I got my first solo piece done by her, and I went back and got 2 more pieces done by her just a couple weeks ago, and they look absolutely incredible. Tattoos are so addicting. I want to get more for sure, but Valen is such a powerful example of courage, passion, and just fearlessness. I mean, her story is really incredible, and I already know you guys are going to find some value, some inspiration, some positive energy from this episode. Valen, I appreciate you so much, babe. Thank you for making the time to come on my show today and just share your gifts with the world.
Thank you for having me. I am super, super stoked to be here. It's also my first podcast.
Let's go.
I'm so honored that this is my first time.
I'm excited for sure. So I want to get into your story a little bit at first. Tell me just first off, how did you first get into tattooing?
It was such a crazy time because I never was expecting to, you know, usually when you grow up or when you're living, you usually think, okay, well, you kind of want to have this in the line. I want to be this, I want to be that. I never thought I wanted to be a tattoo artist. That was something that was like just never on the list. I got into it just as it turned out as something I wanted to like fuck around and do. Okay. So I was like, okay, no, I kind of want to get more tattoos. This is when the whole thing with COVID was happening, so things were just like, you know, so
what age were you at this point?
I was 19, turning 20. Like I was a few months from turning 20.
Okay.
And so I was like, I already had a few tattoos on my arm. I really wanted to get some pieces. So then everything was it was closed and you couldn't really get things anywhere. So then I was like, all right, you know what? I have an Amazon account and I just got a machine and I started tattooing on myself, just literally to have fun. And
I love that.
You know, and then from there, I kind of like sparked an interest that I decided to really pursue. So that's kind of like how it all started.
Okay, that's awesome. So you start getting into tattooing. You just had this like little machine off of Amazon. How long were you doing it before you decided like, okay, I'm actually kind of decent at this and I want to, you know, make money out of it, put artwork on people? How did that transpire?
So it all started with, I started kind of like tattooing at home, you know, just doing like fun $30 tattoos and just kind of like, you know, getting all my friends. They're like, oh, I want to do something. So I was like, sure, let's do it. And I would say it was like 2 months of me kind of like practicing and just doing tattoos at home that I realized I was like, you know, I kind of want to go to a shop now that I saved a few amount of money to actually go to a shop, get a tattoo for myself professionally so I could kind of like see how tattoo artists set up and all that kind of stuff, right? But I always say it's a really small world, and I'm a strong believer in like you have to always treat whoever you come across nice. You know, you never know when that person comes back into your life.
100%.
And in this case, my mentor ended up being my tattoo artist that did my first tattoo also.
Oh, wow.
Like 5 years prior to that moment again, right? So I walk into the shop and I'm here like, okay, I'm about to get a tattoo and just kind of see how they do things. When the guy that's there, it's my tattoo artist. I'm like, oh my God, I haven't seen you in so long. How's life? How's everything? And you know when you follow people on Instagram, but you don't really talk to them, but you just kind of see their growth as you go.
Yeah, of course.
Mm-hmm. So that was kind of me with him. And you used to always see him, like, you know, he posts his work and all that, but I just never really, like, talked to him or anything like that. And then when I see him here, I'm like, oh, it's so nice to see you. Is this where you work at? He's like, yeah, I'm actually the owner of the tattoo shop, and I've been seeing you've been tattooing. And I was like, yeah, but not, like, serious. You know, I just kind of been fucking around as a hobby.
Like just having fun.
But I kind of do see, like, I feel like I could get something out of this. I don't know. The more I kept doing it, the more I felt this passion. So I told them, I was like, you know, I'm kind of interested in pursuing this a little bit more professionally. Obviously, I just don't want to be a tattoo artist that has a $80 machine at home and just doing tattoos.
Doing nothing,
you know?
Yeah.
And that's when he was like, all right, well, if you want, you know, like to really take this serious, have a conversation with me after your consultation, because I came in to get a tattoo, but I wanted to, you know, have a consultation first. So he sat me down and I really was like, you know, I really want to pursue this, but I don't know how to go about it. And he told me, he's like, look, there's like a tattoo artist and then there's an artist, you know, there's two ways you can go about this, you know. So he's like, what's the difference? And I'm like, oh, well, you know, you just tattoo. He's like, well, that's the thing. When you want to be a tattoo artist, you don't really care about the quality. It's just kind of like you come in, what do you want? This is what you want. Here's what I have. And then you don't
care about the quality of work as much?
Exactly.
Like to be a tattoo artist versus like an artist is what you're saying.
Because it's like you're not really thinking about how is this going to heal? Or like if the client comes in, a lot of times it's like, okay, the client will say, I want this, and put it in the places that you're like, you know, it's not going to be like a good place. But you still don't say nothing. You're like, this is what I want. I need the money. And you're just good to go. Or you just get like tattoos done without the proper technique. It's just like, let me get it done, right?
Okay.
And then there's artists that they're a little bit more, they take their time. They're not afraid to say no to certain projects because they know it doesn't fit with their ethic of work and stuff. So like they really sit down, they make sure they work with you, they apply technique, they're very patient, and they really listen to the client without just kind of being like, okay, this is what you want, boom, boom, and then that's it.
Yeah.
So he's like, to be an artist, you know, it takes a lot of time, it takes a lot of dedication. And a lot of people might not think this, but I used to be in the military before I started all this.
You were in the military?
Yeah, I was in the Army Reserve.
Let's go, babe.
So
okay.
That's actually, I started the military when I was young. I was 17 when I had my mom sign for me and all that.
Wow.
Because I wanted to pursue a whole different thing. That's why tattoos for me was like, how did you get
That is
about
so
this?
different. Yeah. Wait, so take me back for a minute. The military, why did you want to join the military in the first place?
Because I want to do something with being a doctor or just dealing with the human body.
Okay,
so
okay.
At that time, you know, because I'm Colombian, I was born there, so I was very Hispanic, very like traditional, right? So for us, it was like, oh, if you're a tattoo artist, you're just like a bum in the street or just doing drugs. You know, you don't have a life out of that.
I get you.
So for me, I was like, I want to be a doctor. I was the first one in my family to like go to college and all that stuff. So for me, it was a very big thing. Like, okay, well, I want to do something in medicine. So we all know how expensive school is in the States.
Very,
Specifically medicine. I was like, you know, with the help of like being in the military, all these funds that I would get from it, that's kind of like why I joined. That was the main reason.
Okay.
So I would say 3 years into the military, because then I was like 18, 19. Okay, yeah. Like
you were 20. Okay.
That's when I was like, so, you know, I would post, everybody knew I was in the military, I was doing all these things. So when I started
I'm an Army girl. Yeah.
When my mentor was like, look, to be an artist, you really want to focus all your thing. And right now you seem like you have a lot going on. You're in the military, you're in school, you're also working at this part-time job.
Yeah.
And then on top of that, you're adding tattoos to your list. It's kind of like, you know, when a human tries to do so many things at once, you're not really focusing or giving your 100% on all that one thing. Right?
Yeah.
So what happened in my case, I was 30% in the military, 30% here, 30% there. So I wasn't really focusing on one thing and giving it my best. Right?
Yeah, and I think that's a great piece of advice that I want to just say as well. Because that's something I know I struggle with, especially if you're like super ADHD type of person. Like I want to do a million things. I know a lot of you guys probably do as well. But I think if you're given like too much to like, or I guess the better way to put it is you're giving not enough to the really things that you want to pursue. And like you said, you got 20% in this, 10% in this, 15% in this. It's like, you got to give at least, I mean, you really need to give 100% to whatever your main focus is going to be, not just partially. You know, maybe you have a side job before you're building what you really want to do, but you got to, at some point, just go all in. What made you get to that point?
So for him, he was like, all right, well, you're giving a lot, and it's not like, I'm not saying what you're doing is bad, you know, but it's also remember that, like, you don't want to stay in that pattern of like, you know, constantly. A lot of the average human tends to have a lot on their plate, and it's kind of like why a lot of us can't
like
focus.
Spread so thin,
exactly.
To where you can't focus.
So then
exactly.
He was like, look, if you really want to be an artist, because I would, because sometimes to be an apprentice you do have to pay, or it's like you will have an artist kind of willing to teach you, but you also have to sacrifice a few things, you know. So like in my case, I was very blessed to find him, and his name is Narnia. So like, well, that's actual name, that's his artist name.
Okay.
He was like, look, when you focus 100% on that one thing's going to open doors to all other things, right? And so in this case, he was like, if you really focus on that one thing, you're going to see. So that really sat in my brain. And, you know, obviously I feel like a lot of us get scared because of what we're grown up to hear, right? For example, I was scared of not having a paper saying that I am successful because I did this degree. Because in my family, it was like, well, if you don't have a degree, you're not going to be successful, you know? So like, kind of fighting that mindset of like, because he would sit down, my mentor was like, look, I'm a high school dropout. I'm not like promoting dropping out or anything like that, but it's more like in this case, he didn't attend education all the way through, but he is making the same amount that a lawyer, for example, because that's what he
that's
told me in that moment. He's like, I'm making more than a lawyer right now. Not saying I'm comparing any jobs. I'm just saying, like, you can be successful as long as you genuinely as a person is willing to give yourself 100% on that one thing that's going to make you happy, right? So that kind of sat in my head, and I was like, okay. Well, he asked me, why are you in school? Are you in school for you, or is it for because of like your parents? And then that's when I really sat down. I was like, I'm kind of doing all these things not for myself. If you really ask me what I want, I don't want to go to school. I don't want to do none of that stuff. And then that's when I really started putting things together, and I was like, you know what? I'm going to drop everything. I dropped out of college. Like, I
love that.
I was like, I'm going to focus
the same
on
thing.
this. Yeah, I was like, you know what? If I don't do this now, like, I'd rather say, okay, I can go back, or at least I did it and didn't work out, versus like, oh, I wish I did it, So I dropped everything. I didn't tell my mom that I dropped out of college. I was like 3 days before starting my second semester, and I was like, I'm not going to tell her. I'm just going to say I'm going to school, but I was actually going to the shop.
Yeah.
And that's kind of how everything started. I started focusing from there. I literally dropped everything. It was very scary at first, of course. The military, I was still at it, but like with school and my part-time job, all these things, I was like, you know what? I'm going to use that time that I was using on that to really focus on perfecting my craft, and did that for 6 months. And then now it's like that changed my whole life.
And that's what you're doing, obviously, full time. Yeah. So I feel like going back to what you said, society kind of tells us the path of like, go to school, get a 9 to 5, start a family, and then you kind of just die. And I feel like, honestly, I've never been to that mindset either. And I know you're not as well, but society, again, kind of tells us to do that. So how were you able to go against that societal pressure, whether it was from your family, whether it was just, again, from like what people want us to do versus what we want to do? How did you have the confidence to follow your heart instead, even though you didn't really know that tattoos would lead you to, hey, this is my full-time job. Like, I'm able to live it and make it in Miami and now New York now. How were you able to do that?
So I feel like a big thing is definitely, we all get that that anxious feeling when we want to do something and you obviously aren't hearing when you ask people like, hey, I've been wanting to do this, and you're not hearing what you want to hear, and then people are like, oh, like, no, that's kind of scary. I wouldn't do that. Because one of the things I got when I wanted to pursue tattoos in that moment was like, it's COVID. Who wants to get tattooed? Like, it's like the worst time to want to start this. You can't financially like you can't have stability doing that, all the time. And then in my head, obviously all these things are like, and I would even think like, okay, well, how am I going to be able to, really have people want to book with me, or even want to get tattooed by someone that didn't grow up always drawing either, So like, it was always like, okay, it's a little tricky in that part. I always had a feeling, or I always knew that whenever things felt scary, that's actually where you should go, because it's like, if it's a feeling comfortable, I mean, where do we get out of comfort? I feel like
nowhere.
We all know where comfort takes us.
I feel like it's so cliche, the quote that's like, all good things take place outside of your comfort zone, but it's so true. That's so true. Anything you're going to do that's going to be fruitful is going to be making you uncomfortable to some extent. I totally agree.
It's really true. And so for me, when all these things were happening, like, all these doubts and all these things, I didn't have support from my mom either, because she was like, well, if you're grown to make that decision at 19, well, go ahead and do your thing. You decide how you want your life to go.
Right.
And I think part of it was definitely, I'm a person, I'm like, I don't want to, I don't care what people think, and I shouldn't prove anything to nobody. But sometimes it's like that motivation of like, oh, you think I can't do it? All right, well,
I'm going to do it.
Yeah, so I think a lot of it was that, like, really trying to prove like I could do it, And
were you proving this more so to yourself or more so to other people?
I think more to myself, along to also my mom, because I feel like I'm the one person in my family. I feel like even us people, like this generation, because I'm a 2001, so like,
me too. We were born in the same year.
It's crazy.
Yeah, it's
so
cool.
Like I feel like us are experiencing that transitional phase, where we're kind of like, we're raised with these old school kind of forms, but then trying to realize, okay, some things aren't, we could tweak a little, it's not like that. And so being again with the modern, so like for me it was very that being aware of like, okay, I'm the person that I am, I can't. I think I would say another reason too, I was very inspired was because my mom, for example, she was 24 when she decided to come to this country with me when I was 4 years. When she was, she was always a very risk taker. So I would be like, all right, well, look where you got taking, you could have stayed in Colombia, but, stayed in your comfort zone, but you didn't. You decided to come to this country, start fresh and do all these things alone.
Yeah.
So it's like, how hypocritical of you to then tell me like, oh, don't do that because you don't know how that's gonna take you. Well, it's like you want to be able to, you know, when you feel that risk, it's like do it, you know. And so
exactly.
for me, it was definitely, I think that it was just kind of being able to like, you know, you only live once, and if it doesn't feel scary, then it's like something's wrong. You have to feel like it's scary.
I think at some point, anything you want to do, you're going to have to take a big risk that's not going to feel very good at the time, and you're not going to be able to see the end result, but you just have to take that risk anyway. So kind of when you're going through this, you're taking the risk. It's just your early stages as an artist. Was there ever a moment in your career where you really questioned, like, damn, like, I shouldn't have made this decision, or like, how am I going to get through this? But that time made you a little bit more successful?
Yeah, actually, I had one encounter, I would say, it was one client where I was still fresh in the game. I would say I was like only like 6 months post my apprenticeship graduation.
Okay.
And so, you know, he comes in and we do a consultation. He wants like this tattoo. And so I did the design and he loved it and all that. So a few days after the consultation, we had booked a date for the appointment. And then he texts me. He's like, you know, I'm gonna be honest, I don't feel comfortable with you tattooing me just yet. You're just so fresh in the game, and it's like, I don't know how comfortable I feel yet, all this and stuff like that. So then, you know, my first thing was like, okay, it's fine. You know, at the end of the day, it's your body, it's your skin. I'm not gonna be here like, you need to get it done by me. But I will say, if I designed this because I could do it. But no worries, it's your choice. So I did have a few moments like that where clients were like, oh, like your work is too scratchy, or your work is too this and it's too that. So little things like that at first. And, you know, easily I could have been like, okay, for me, it hurt a little bit to hear like all these things.
But did that ever make you feel doubtful of yourself?
Yeah, 100%. I was like, you know, maybe this is not my thing, or this and that. But then also part of it was like, well, I'm gonna use this to learn. So then I would really look at my work and be like, all right, maybe I need to perfect certain things, because sometimes maybe people's way of saying things could come off a little harsh, but their intentions is just like maybe to like, you know, learn just to improve a little bit.
Of course.
In my things, there were a lot of times I did have, you know, a lot of like encounters like that made me doubt myself. But then I also would also put into perspective, like, okay, how many celebrities don't get doubted all the time? And it's like, you know, you just got to keep on going, because if there was no doubt, if there was no, you know, little hate and little things like that, then that means you're not doing something.
You're not known. I think also if no one has anything like, I don't want to say bad to say about you, but if no one's talking about you at least at all, then you're just unknown. Like, people are going to have some hate. Like, people need to know about your work. Some people are going to like it. Some people are not. Some people are going to see your vision. And again, some people are just not going to rock with you, and you just got to deal with it. Yeah.
Exactly.
100%.
You know, so that was definitely, you know, you can't be everyone's cup of tea, but also just because if you aren't anyone's cup of tea doesn't mean like you're not somebody's, you know. So it's always,
100%.
It's always gonna be there's always gonna be your people's, and I think that's very important to always remember.
Yeah.
So, you know, sometimes I feel like, you know, you can kind of forget. Like,
I agree. Yeah, you ain't for everybody, you know, and that's okay. It's all right, you know. But kind of talking a little bit more about tattooing. One thing that I love about artistry and about just knowing you as much as I do, you're just a very creative person. And I feel like with tattoo artistry, you have to be really mentally and creatively present at all times. And a lot of people shut that part off of themselves as they get older. It's kind of sad, because when we're younger, we just want to create and imagine and play. But as we get older, again, it's that societal pressure, go to work, go home, do it again, do it again. How do you yourself get into that creative space, and how can someone kind of tap into that creativity a little bit more if they want to pursue anything in the artistic field, or maybe just to be more creative as well?
I definitely could say that as we get older, especially in today's society, it's kind of like, oh, you just get so wrapped up with work, and responsibilities that we kind of forget, wait a minute, like, what do I like to do that's fun, you know? So, and the reason why I say that is because for me, at least for me to be creative, for me to be able to tune in with myself, I always make space and prioritize, like, doing things that genuinely makes me happy and not losing that child version of me, you know? Sometimes as we get older, we think, oh, well, we're adults now. We have to close that door on the little child.
Yeah.
It's like, absolutely not. You want to continue being that child. Obviously, you don't want to be childish and, like, be like, you know, have those characteristics. Because sometimes when people be like, oh, well, to hold that child, that means I have to act like a child. No, not necessarily. It's like, still keep your child things. Like, for example, me, I love sometimes going out to be in a playground, and just if I'm walking in a park and I see swings, I'm gonna go and do things that as a child we would do and just enjoy. That I feel like we have if we were able to do it before when we really didn't have that much free will because our parents were behind their asses all the time, now that we have that free will, like, why don't we not appreciate that and enjoy it? So I feel like it's a big part for people that do want to tap into their art and be creative is like, you have to know who you are to be able to express that, because I feel like your art is an extension of who you are. If not, if you don't know who you are and you want to be an artist, you're just going to be replicating art that's already out there. You know what I mean? It's like you're going to just not find an identity in it, and you're just going to be kind of like, oh, well, I'm just going to sit down and paint it. But like you're painting something that's not truly an extension of you. You're just doing it to do it, if that makes sense. So I always tell people, I feel like it's very important to just making sure you take that time. The same way we book our nail appointment, we book our hair appointment, we book our gym anything, we have to make sure, if it comes down to that, like for me, it comes down to the point where I have to book my days off, because it's like, if I don't do it, then I will, as like the way society, like the way we run all the time is like, we're gonna not have that happen. And then all of a sudden we're 30, 40, 50, we're gonna be like, where did my young days go?
Where did my time go? I totally agree. We were talking about that a little bit earlier, but sometimes you just get to that point to where you just feel so burnt out and you're not even enjoying like what you love anymore. So you have to make intentional time to, I agree, like you said, just kind of like play, you know, do things that are more fun, do things that fill your cup a little bit. That way you are better at your career and your art and things like that. So that's really smart. Tell me a little bit more about like, how would you describe your work as an artist?
I feel like my work as an artist, so I always tell people, one of my things for sure is my art, my guide to my art is always my clients, because it's like, you know, when I sit down and I could draw flowers, I could draw something, but it's like I could do so many versions of something, but it's like having that guide of the person next to me to tell me, okay, well, I kind of want this, or hearing a little bit about themselves is definitely like a major contribution to like the art that I create. So if I could say the kind of art that I give, I feel like it's a very curated extension of who you are as the receiver of the art. Yeah. And then for me, it's like being able to know, like, okay, well, if this person, because how do I explain this? For me, it's kind of like, most of my tattoo or my art that I time is tattooing. Like 80% of the time that I'm drawing and all that is tattooing. So that other 20%, I usually would be like, all right, I want to do paintings and stuff. But I'm like, with paintings is a little bit hard because I'm used to always having that guide, that person telling me, okay, this is what I want to, this is kind of like what I want to do. Hearing their story is like my inspiration to like paint, you know, or to create this design. But when it comes to painting, it's like, all right, well, it's just so much I could go about. I can do so, you know, so it's kind of like a little harder to sit down and be like, okay, I'm okay. I could take like days to create one painting, but then when it comes to tattoos, it's so much easier. And I think for me, if I could say one word, it would be like very curated art. Curated, you know, because it's like,
it's personal to you.
It's very personal, you know.
And I feel like too, a lot of other jobs are not as personal like that, because a lot of times when you're doing artwork on someone, like it means something. Yeah, maybe someone wants to just get a playful piece, but I know every piece I've ever done has had like significant meaning to me, and you're kind of in a vulnerable space, I feel, you know, as well 100%. With your clients.
I think one of my most beautiful things is that continues to motivate me to what I do. It's being able to have, for example, an individual that's a little bit self-conscious about themselves, but then they get this tattoo and now they're always constantly getting stopped and being like, oh my God, it's so beautiful. An example is like, let's say I have an individual that's a client that she's probably not self-conscious of her arms, right? Then gets a really cool floral sleeve tattoo, very dainty or feminine, something that's an extension of her and what she wants, right? And now, a few months later, you come back to her telling you how she's been feeling so great about herself. Her self-esteem just went off the rockets because she's constantly getting reminded of how beautiful the artwork is, and just like she's getting the recognition that she didn't have before, if that makes sense.
That makes total sense. Yeah. So you feel like tattoos build confidence to some extent?
100%.
Okay.
And this is why, you know, it's actually good that you asked me that, because when people are like, oh, tattoos, it definitely builds your confidence, which is why it's so important that you find the artist is willing to see what you're looking for or what it is that you need to build that confidence. If that makes sense. Because you can easily, tattoos are supposed to make you confident, but then if you go to someone that's an artist that's not really understanding what your concept, and you just slap some art on or some tattoos on, and now it's a little maybe not to your liking, and now you hate this tattoo. So you see how it could easily also mess up
your confidence. It could easily also, make you less confident. You get something
important.
You don't like, and it's stuck there forever, know?
And you constantly see yourself in the mirror, you're like, oh, I fucking hate this tattoo.
Right,
like,
of
now
course.
I don't want to see it. So it's kind of like, that's just very important to make sure you're going to someone that's willing to hear you out and be like, okay, I can see these are the little things that are making you a little bit self-conscious. Let's make that better,
100%. And that's one thing I really love about you as an artist too. Like even every time that I've came in with you, I'm someone, I want to take my time when I'm getting something on my body. I want to make sure it's going to look good. It's going to make me feel more confident, more sexy, speak to me. And that's what you do. You take the time. We're trying on different tattoo sizes, different pieces, like where it looks on my body. She sees my vision, and that's something that I really like. And a lot of artists probably don't take the times to do. But thank you for doing that. I think that's super important as well. I agree.
Biggest thing. Like I always tell clients, I'm like, look, I'm always going to sit down way before right before our session to talk.
Right.
That even if it's a small tattoo, I'm still gonna sit down and be like, what is it? Can we do? Tell me where you would want it? Like all these things, I'm very also considerate, especially for females, like placement wise, we consider jewelry. Like, so if you want to get a tattoo where you're constantly wearing jewelry. So, it's always little things like that I always take my time to pinpoint and also consider. So that's one of the things that I love. I feel like because today everything's such in a rush, we don't have time. It's like I want to make sure I make sure I have
with tattoos, you better make the time. It's going to be stuck there. So let me ask you too, working with people so closely, again, you're in a vulnerable space. How has working with people in that way changed the way that you see humanity or how you just connect with people in general?
It definitely made me feel more compassionate.
Yeah, sure. Mm-hmm.
Because and also it made me realize like working with people, because obviously a lot of my sessions, because I take my time to listen to them, I have that opportunity to hear out their stories and things that sometimes they're going through and all that. So it really makes me put into perspective that the world, we have to really be soft on people, not soft, but like just not, we're constantly like
be human,
I feel like we need to realize we're human. We all are going through problems, and I'm not saying like, oh, let's normalize going through problems. No, but it's kind of like if you're going through something, it's like I'm sure the partner next to you is probably going, so it's kind of like being able to just be human, be kind, and like it's also, you hear situations that now also I feel like I love when clients like talk to me about certain experiences, because it's also like a knowledge that's being passed on, and you get to be like, all right, if I'm ever in this position, now I know what you can and can't. You know what I mean?
100%.
Those things. But I think it made me. I'm an only child, so like I grew up where it's like it's all me. Like I don't care about the person that's, you know what I mean? I would be like that. Like it's not my problem.
Like you're living in your own little bubble. Exactly. You're not concerned with this person or that person. Yeah.
But then now I'm like, how selfish of me, because it's like, if you ever really wonder, when you ask somebody, for example, oh, what will you do when you're successful? If I gave you $1 million right now, what would you do with it? And a lot of times you're going to probably hear, oh, I'll buy this mansion, I'll buy this, I'll buy that, I'll get this, I'll get that. And all I hear is I. And it's like, in this world, everyone's so it's like, that's why everything's like so hard and wicked now these days, because it's like everybody just sees it for their own beneficial, not realizing how what I can contribute, it's all a domino effect. Like if one person doesn't do nothing, it's going to eventually all be affected by one. And I think, so it's like, being able to kind of like give back, be able to give back, even if it's not necessarily financially, even if you could be able to give back by hearing someone out that never has been heard. So like, so that's kind of like what I've gotten from like, my interactions with clients. A lot of times, it's like, oh, I've never been heard before. I've never been this. So it's like, thank you for being that light.
It's an experience. Yeah. And I think you never truly know what someone's going through. And sometimes people just need that person to talk to, and it really is cool that you're able to give them that compassionate, like you said, space, like be more empathetic, And
then now they leave my chair with like a lighter energy, right? And now they could be that. Now they
carry that with them
and be
to the next place they go. I agree.
Able to hold that space for someone else. So I think that's very. I'm learning.
That's super important. Yeah, you're learning, like you said.
As artists, we could be very selfish. Like any general, like tattoo artist or singer, anybody in the artist label, because it's like when you create, you always think about what do I want to create, and it's never like I want to create. It's like I'm creating, but it's not for me. I'm creating for the world, for the people.
Yeah,
you know?
I get that. And staying on the topic of humanity too, because that hits me hard. It's actually something that I feel like a lot of people can relate to. And I was never an only child. I had, a sibling, but I feel like I'm the type of person not to really express that as much. Like I push back a lot of my emotions. I feel like I have a harder time letting people in. And I know this is bad, to hold it all in, not to be willing to express or to receive anger or joy or grief or anything like that. It's really not how we should live. And I think that's something that I've been working on the past year. So what would you say to someone who maybe struggles to open up, like I've talked about? What's one thing that they can start doing to live more authentically and just show more humanity even when it's uncomfortable?
I think one of the things is like letting go. Being able to really let go. I feel like a lot of times when we struggle to let in other people or to speak about our emotions, it's because we're still suppressing, we're still holding on to something. And for example, let's say I'm giving like an example. If you had a partner, or like let's say two people are dating, one breaks up, so then this person, the person that's heartbroken from their breakup, like they don't want to love ever again, because it's like, oh, like they're holding on, right? But little do they know, by holding on, you're not like doing damage, like you're not affecting the other person. The other person's probably living their lives, probably moved on, but you're damaging
you're just damaging yourself at that point
from not letting go. So I think I can say it because I'm one of those person that I've been learning the same thing, where it's like, I grew up my mom never really spoke, so everything's very like, no emotions. I was very like, if you have an emotions, gotta go. Continue. Life
don't feel
on,
that. Just keep moving forwards.
And that's actually weaker than sitting down and feeling your emotions. Because think about this. It's like, how do you expect to be able to be there for others or serve others, or like kind of like genuinely be like serve as a full-on motivation with others, if it's like, oh, you have to practice of like, to be able to like go be free, but it's like you're not doing that to yourself. It's like you dig yourself into like
into a hole.
So I think it's very it's okay to feel. I always tell people, like, just because you're feeling or expressing your emotions to someone else does not make you weak. It does not make you, like I'm crybaby or I'm sympathy or like hear me out. No, I think it's very beautiful when a human can actually be like, yeah, this is what I feel, because it's like you're acknowledging, is like, yeah, I'm supposed to feel. That is the human experience. But it's like, if you continue to like not want to let others in, or not be able to like just kind of be more of like, because I feel like sometimes when people think of not letting in is like, oh, I have no feelings, I can't get, because you can still be caring, you can still be super compassionate,
of course, you can't have your heart completely hardened.
Exactly.
And not,
but it's more of like you understanding that like it's okay, but it's also okay to be selective. You know what I mean? It's like it's okay to also be selective of who you want to let in and out. But if when it comes to being able to give to like the humanity part, it's like, express that, and it's like I think it's also part of you being able to learn to like let go. It's just like you won't ever really know what's waiting for you if you don't really like go. Like, for example, if you don't let people in, you'll never know what that person has to give to you.
That's very true. And I think you have to be like willing to take that risk, and that's something I'm learning too.
And not be scared of getting hurt. You can't be scared of getting hurt,
right?
Because when you do get scared of getting hurt, you're like in denial of that human experience too. If that makes sense.
No, that makes total sense. And one thing too. Again, like I said, you're so genuine, you're so clear in what you're expressing. But one thing you told me on the questionnaire that I always give my guests is that a lot of people have a tendency to actually think you're a bitch, which I think, to me, a bitch is mean, cold, self-centered, only about themselves. And this could not be further from the truth based off of what I'm hearing, which you're super confident. And I think sometimes maybe you get misunderstood. Maybe this is a negative thing, or I don't know. Why do you think that people assume this about you?
So it's funny because I've been told that's what like people would think that I come off as. But then I think one of the reasons why people probably perceive me as that at first is because they're like, oh, well, she, you know, I feel like when you see other pretty people, they're probably assume right away, like, okay, they're all that, or this is that.
Like, they think they're this type of person, they're snooty, whatever, yeah.
So one of the things I feel like people think that's like, they're like, okay, why they see how my photos are, and they see how I look, and also when I'm out or just in general, I have a pretty serious face unless it's like I'm being approachable, unless I'm like approaching, you know what I mean? Because I'm not gonna be out in the streets like, you know,
right?
But
talking to everybody, yeah.
I can't have like a resting bitch face, but I feel like until people start talking to me, then they really realize. I think they think that until I open my mouth.
Okay.
And then they're like, okay, no, she's actually really cool. And, you know, then like with the tattoos and stuff, I feel like it can just give somebody like she could be a bitch, you know?
I get that. Yeah. But I think more than anything, like I said, I think you're just confident. You're confident in your abilities. You're confident in what you do. And I think a lot of women do not feel this way or do not present themselves that way. What do you think is a good piece of advice that you have for women to build confidence within themselves, or maybe even shift away from comparison to other females, or, you know, supporting and uplifting other people as well? Because that's exactly what you do with your work and just with your personality as well.
I feel like one of the things I could definitely tell, like, for confidence and for women to feel or not feel like, oh my God, I don't want to be, maybe feel embarrassed of who I am, is like, I think even now in today's world, especially 2026, and just how this world is kind of like getting where everybody kind of wants to look like somebody else or just be so. When you go to a museum, for example, all the pieces you see, they're all unique. They're all like their own different thing. It's not like you go and everything's like all statues are the same. It's because that if everything looks the same, then it's like it gets boring, right? It's like, okay, yeah, look the same, yeah, act the same. It's boring. Like, give me something new. It's like eating the same food. I need
something new.
Yeah, it's like eating the same food all the time. You guys, it's gonna get boring, right? So in this world, everybody's personality is like trying to become like the same thing. You know, it's like, oh, I want to be you ask somebody what's fun for them, and oh, let's go on let's go this and that. Which, okay, it's fun. Yeah, I get it. But it's also like, is it fun to go on a hike and sit down and ground? Do you guys want to do that? Or is that like too calm of a thing to do? So it's I
think that's not too calm at all. I'm down. Yeah.
I feel like confidence definitely, as much as we hear this a lot, like just be yourself, and you probably be like, but who am I? Well, that's exactly where the homework starts. If we're told to be authentic and you don't know what that is, then that's exactly what that's like our first thing to work on. Like, okay, I need to be myself, because for me, that's how it worked. Like, I was like, all right, I'm tired of just being like everybody else. And what do I mean by that? What I mean by that is, like, obviously I'm a girl, right? But I don't like wearing dresses like that, or short skirts, or like little things like that.
She wearing some cool long shorts today.
Like cool things. And then also you know. And then then you have like that confliction of like, oh, well, you don't want to look too masculine, you want to look to this, to that. But it's like, at the end of the day, I'm gonna dress for me, like for how I want to be. Like, that's just because it's an expression of who I am, you know. And it's like, I feel, and so a lot of people should stop caring about, oh, I don't want to wear this because I don't know if I'm too overdressed or too underdressed, or like, I don't know. No,
stop caring what other people think about you and perceive you as,
you know. And also, like, don't let me bother you. Don't let what I do bother you. And everyone's just so bothered.
Yeah.
That's the thing. Everybody's so bothered these days that it's reason why people kind of be like, oh, I don't want to. For example, if someone's wearing a hot pink fur coat onto a pool, if they want to, they can. Why are you bothered that they're wearing that? So now because someone is bothered.
That's your problem, not theirs. Exactly. Yeah, if they want to do what they want to do,
But then what happens? Because the people around are bothered, and then the person wearing the fur coat is going to feel some type of way. So she's like, maybe I should maybe take it off because these people. No, that absolutely not. Like, be yourself. Don't really care about what people think. And I think the more authentic the people are becoming, especially women, the more they're realizing, like, this is who I am. This is like what I got to put in the table. It's actually so scarce these days than finding that. So if you can be that hidden gem, like, be it. You know what I mean? Like, if you could be the
I
authentic,
totally agree. You know, I think a lot of people, especially like living in Miami, a lot of females they all want to do the same thing. They want to look, like you said, look like somebody else, or they wear something different. This person doesn't like it, so they don't want to put it on anymore. But I think it's very rare to find someone as expressive as you, and someone who truly is pursuing what they want to do, what they want to wear versus what everyone else wants them to do. Because you shouldn't be bothered by that. You shouldn't be bothered.
You said about the Miami thing. I know so many people that's moved. I was one of them. I was in Miami for 5 years. I just moved back to Jersey. But when I moved here, people are like, "Oh, you're such a Miami girl now," because it's true. You do want to like start being like, "Okay, I want to wear my outfits. So I want to be like more this and like,
yeah." I mean, where you're around your environment, it does affect you.
It does,
no doubt.
You don't even notice. But then now that I like moved back and I come back, when I go back and forth a lot of times, you hear, you see. I have a friend that just moved from up north down here, and I'm like, oh yeah, girl, you're now in Miami. Like your aesthetic is so different now. Like
right. So you feel like Miami changed you a little bit.
But it's funny because it changes you without you even realizing, and that's why it's very important to realize who you are, because you subconsciously will just start kind of adapting to your environment and normalizing other like the
things that aren't normal.
Maybe to you, So I think it's very important to not let your identity be your environment. You gotta be the identity in the environment, because
100%.
That's what makes the environment.
I agree. And I think living authentically and really being yourself takes a lot of courage. You're someone who embodies that. And since this is the Curls and Courage podcast, what does courage mean to you?
To me, courage means it's equal to confidence. Like it literally is plainly confidence, because for you to be courageous, you have to have that confidence. For example, for me to be courage to tattoo is like I need to have that confidence as well in me to execute. So when I hear courage is like the next C to it,
100%. No, I totally agree. Well, this episode's getting a little long, so we're going to start wrapping it up a little bit here. And I always like to do more of like a rapid fire Q&A style segment on my show. Yeah. So what I want to do before we close, I have 10 questions that I prepared for you, and I want you to answer them, right off the top of your head. Don't overthink it. We're going to try to answer these in like 60 seconds or less. So whatever comes off the top of your head. Okay.
Okay.
All right. Pretty random, but don't overthink it. Something that people get wrong about success.
That is money.
That is so true. What is a hard truth that people don't want to hear?
Oh my gosh.
It's a tough question.
Truth.
A hard truth, something that people...
You never stop healing.
Oh, okay. That's a good one. What about a tattoo trend that needs to die immediately?
Cybergilism.
What is... Wait, hold on. What is cybergilism?
Cybergilism is like... They just look like the chrome outlines. Lines,
oh, I see what you mean. Like, just weird. Yeah. Okay.
I never understood that style. No offense.
I don't understand either. It's okay. Respectfully. What is a trait that makes someone instantly attractive?
When they're like humble.
I agree. What about a boundary you set for yourself that changed your life?
Saying no.
Okay.
Like knowing when to just know, and if I don't want it, I'm not gonna do it.
Okay, I got you. Yeah. Okay, tell me a tattoo piece that you really want to do, something that's been on your mind.
This really cool. I want to be doing this really cool sleeve. It has to do a lot with like statues and kind of like a Greek mythology theme. It's really cool.
Okay, awesome. Really cool. I hope you get to do it.
I'll be there soon.
Very nice. I'm excited for that. What about something that people glorify right now that's actually toxic?
Friends. Just kidding.
Having friends. She a loner out here. I feel you.
No, I would say the trend right now of like men wanting to be treated like women, like the how the roles are switching.
Ooh,
that one.
Girl, that's so true. Okay, why do they want to do that? Okay.
They want to be princesses.
They want to be princesses. No, I'm the princess.
Yeah.
Like, come on, man. What? That's so funny. Okay, tell me the best piece of advice that you've ever received.
Think twice before you speak once.
Okay. Last question. What is the biggest mistake you've made as an artist up to this point?
Oh my God, I tattooed the wrong date, but in Roman numerals.
She didn't tell me this before.
It was both of our faults.
That is a bad mistake. I can't even lie. That's funny. Well,
early in my career, but
early in her career, she won't do it now. Well, Valen, it was truly an honor to have you on today's show. And thank you so much just for being vulnerable and sharing so much about what you do. Tell me what you're currently working on and if there's anything else that you want to share with my listeners.
First of all, I'm so grateful for this opportunity. Thank you for hearing me out. One of the things I'm currently working on is just being a better person, letting go of, we always have things we need to tweak and perfect. And I think that's something I'm setting, really taking in and doing that internal work, the real internal work. So that's something I've been doing because I want to be able to serve for the community, be able to serve for the people and be able to contribute to this world as long as I can breathe and have my functional body. So for me to be able to do that, I have to know who I am and do those internal things. So that's something I've been working on. And if I can encourage people to, if I could say something of encouragement for sure is don't let these hardships or these hard times kind of really make that your identity, because it's really not. It's 10,000 things could be happening around you, a war, anything. But if you are divinely protected and really into your okay, this is who I am, and I know your mindset's positive, nothing will really be touching you. So it's making sure you have that awareness.
I love that.
You need to stay really believe that light and really believe, and you'll know you'll be fine.
I agree. I think it's truly believing in yourself and truly cultivating that inner peace regardless of what's going on in the world and around you, which is hard to do, but very, very true. I love that. Where can my listeners find you if they want to connect? Maybe they want to get a piece, a little bit of artwork done by you.
One of my biggest platforms to connect is Instagram, and my @ is Valen, Valen, period, INKED.
Okay, Valen
Check out
Inked.
my work, Valen Inked. So if you want to get inked, just let me know. But I am. That's the only thing I really use. I'm not too much on me.
No, that's perfect. That's
follow
perfect.
me to get inspired.
Yeah, there you go. I love that. Okay. You guys know what to do. Also follow @YoIt'sKenslow and @Curls and Courage Podcast on Instagram. If you want to connect with me more and just stay updated on the show as well, let me know who you guys want to see next. Show some love to the podcast by leaving a rating and reviewing wherever you're listening now. Subscribe to my YouTube channel. Share this episode with someone who needs to hear it. And just know that your support really means so much to me and allows me to continue to produce these episodes for y'all. Check out the podcast every Thursday on WDJY 99.1 FM as well. And lastly, if you're interested in one-on-one training or nutrition coaching, please shoot me an email at kinsleymeeksfit@gmail.com. I would love to help you guys, of course. And until the next episode, y'all stay fearless, keep the vibes up, and always move with courage. We'll see you guys in the next episode. Bye. Appreciate y'all. Bye.